Julia stepped out of the elevator with the quiet composure of someone accustomed to moving through professional spaces with purpose. The doors slid closed behind her with a muted whisper, and the familiar expanse of the lobby stretched out ahead, polished tile floors reflecting the overhead lights, the front desk standing like a command post at the center of it all. Before she even reached the desk, her eyes met Sarah's. There was no verbal exchange. None was necessary. Sarah, ever perceptive, held Julia's gaze for half a second, then subtly shifted her eyes to the right. Julia followed the cue. There he was. Brian sat exactly where Sarah had asked him to, one of the grey, upholstered chairs along the wall, slightly removed from the main flow of foot traffic. His elbows rested loosely on his knees, his hands hung between them. His eyes were cast straight down at the tile floor, fixed not on any particular detail, but on the faint reflection staring back at him. He looked as though he were studying nothing at all. From a distance, he appeared calm, but Julia could see it. The tension in his shoulders, the stillness that wasn't peace but concentration, the posture of someone bracing himself. She felt something shift inside her. Without hesitating, she walked toward him. Brian did not notice her approach until she was well within his personal space. She closed the distance deliberately, disrupting the silent bubble he had constructed around himself. Yet another pleasant surprise, Brian? Her voice was soft, not sarcastic, not guarded. It carried warmth, an almost careful gentleness. When delivered as properly as Julia had just done, it had the power to dissolve defenses. It made its recipient feel welcomed, perhaps even wanted. Brian's gaze snapped upward. For a fraction of a second, confusion flickered across his face, like someone abruptly waking from a daydream. Then recognition flooded in. He stood immediately, too quickly perhaps. He rose with such suddenness that he nearly stepped into her. He caught himself at the last possible moment, adjusting his footing so as not to collide with her. The closeness between them made that outcome entirely possible. "Hi, Julie," he said. Standing had done nothing to improve his ability to speak. The same problem that had seized him with Sarah at the front desk returned in full force. Words existed in his mind. He could feel them there, but they refused to organize themselves into something coherent. He was taking a crash course in expressing his feelings, and he was flying blind. Julia sensed it immediately, the disorientation, the mental scrambling. She had spent years in courtrooms, reading witnesses, opposing counsel, juries. She knew what uncertainty looked like. She also knew when someone was trying. "Would you like to talk, Brian?" she asked gently. "Yes," he replied almost instantly, relief embedded in the single syllable. "I'd like to speak with you, if you have a moment." There was an earnestness in his voice that stripped the interaction of any pretense. Julia nodded. "Prior to coming downstairs, I was in the process of prepping one last file before calling it a day," she explained. "Completing this task will take approximately 15 minutes. Is that okay, Brian?" The politeness of the question struck him. He was the one who had interrupted her day, yet she asked for his permission, as though the arrangement needed mutual consent. "Of course, Julia," he said quickly. "Take as much time as you need." She studied him for a second longer, then added, "We should probably find another place to chat. A place with a lot less noise and a bit more privacy than the office lounge. Wouldn't you agree?" "Yes," he said. Then, with a small spark of confidence returning, "I know just the place." Across the lobby, Sarah remained on standby. She positioned herself far enough away to miss the parts of the conversation that she had no business hearing, but close enough to observe the direction in which things were moving. She understood that moments like these sometimes required a subtle nudge. As Julia began to turn toward the elevators, Sarah stepped forward just enough to deliver the final line in her supporting role. "Julia," she called out politely, "would you like me to have the car service come around front for you?" It was a simple question, one of routine. As a high-profile attorney in the building, Julia had access to certain perks, an all-inclusive package that afforded car service at a moment's notice. It was efficient, professional, expected. Julia didn't hesitate. "No, thank you," she said. Then, glancing toward Brian, she added, "I'm leaving with Brian, and he's going to take us wherever we need to go. Thanks, though." The words landed with quiet clarity. Sarah nodded once, satisfied. Julia disappeared back into the elevator and upstairs to close out her final file, leaving Brian in the lobby once more. But this time, he was not staring at the floor in uncertainty. He was processing. She declined the car service. The thought replayed in his mind. The car service. Sleek, black vehicles idling curbside, professional drivers in pressed uniforms, a convenience he could never provide. Instead, she had chosen his vehicle, his 15-year-old Toyota Tacoma on the verge of hitting 200,000 miles. The paint had dulled in places. The passenger door required a firm pull to close completely. The radio occasionally cut out when the volume was turned too high. And she chose that. In that moment, Julia did not care about the perks, the optics, or the lifestyle she was afforded. None of that factored into her decision. The only thing that mattered was the opportunity to talk to Brian, regardless of conditions. He looked up instinctively, hoping to see Sarah. He didn't have to search. She stood behind the front desk, already looking at him, as if she had been waiting for him to lift his head. Their eyes met. Sarah smiled. It was not the polite smile she offered tenants and visitors throughout the day. It was something warmer, more personal. Then she turned and walked back into her office. That smile said everything. It said, "You're welcome." A few minutes later, the elevator chimed again. Julia stepped out, briefcase in hand, movements efficient yet unhurried. "I'm ready when you are, Bran," she said. "Where would you like to go?" "No pizza tonight," he began with a faint grin. "I know of a great deli near my house that has an excellent variety of soups and salads that I believe you would enjoy." He paused. Then, choosing courage over comfort, he added, "Would you be opposed to having dinner with me this evening, Julia?" She tilted her head slightly, amusement dancing in her eyes. "Why do you think I'm down here, silly?" she replied in a playful tone. The word silly disarmed him completely. He laughed. "Excellent," he said. "We'll take it to go."